Hey, welcome to Eventual, your OG prediction market podcast. I'm Alex Keeney, your host and founder, and I'm riding shotgun today with Brian Golden, aka Prince Hal. We got a great show lined up for you today. First of all, we got to talk about it. Fake polls are back, so don't get catfished. We've got the best on that. Then it is election day in Florida. Ron DeSantis' successor and some typical Florida weirdos that we need to talk about trading on. And then on the back half of the show, we've got Suzy Weiss from the Free Press and Luke Kawa from Sherwood News joining to talk about pop culture, finance, and AI. So that is a full dance card. Now, before we get started, remember, go check out Polymarket. Their data is what powers this show. So check out Polymarket. They're back in the US. Just visit polymarket.us and give them a little thumbs up from us here at Eventual. And then finally, we got to get through this part. A note about the legal fam. First of all, trade safe out there. This is not financial advice. And you're going to be hearing from people who may or may not be holding positions in prediction markets. So just know that they could change them without telling you. And nothing we are saying here should be construed as a buy this or sell this instructive. Finally, if you're using polymarket.us, remember it's 18 and over only. There are restrictions and eligibility requirements, and it's not available everywhere. Just remember trading is risky and you can lose your whole position. So see polymarket.com/TOS for more information. And now we are going to get started.
Higher performance and faster and more reliable.
Nothing has been done in a way that nothing else will ever know.
Brian, back in the house. It seems like you're on a tour of semi-depressing Airbnbs worldwide. Where are you? Is this a bathroom or a living room?
I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna repeat that to my mother-in-law who decorated this room.
Okay.
I'm at the in-laws' house. We're having a lovely time. It's not depressing. New York is lovely this time of year, but I have been gone from home for a while. Luckily, there have been some good markets to, make the time pass. We got a big win last week in Wisconsin. We haven't talked since then, have we?
No, we haven't.
That was just a week ago?
Yeah, we were very happy to trumpet out all the clips of you saying that these polls for Francesca Hong look like they could be fake. Why don't you bet against them at a very, very high multiple? So do you want to take a bow?
I mean, this is what you come here for, right? We'll give you Hong No at 5 cents. I don't know. No promises this week. And we are not giving you financial advice, but it was a good Tuesday last week for me because we're in the fake poll zone. Yeah. I mean, fake polls. I don't know if the polls in Wisconsin were fake, bad, or just maybe taken before Francesca decided to hate Thanksgiving. But one of those three, maybe all of those three. But we got fake polls all over the place. We had a fake poll in LA today. Yesterday.
We do. But hold on, let's take a minute to just hang a lantern on that, because this is what we do here at Eventual, and this is what we do with prediction markets. Is I think on our best days we like to make very educated, very informed guesses about what we don't know. We itemize what we know, we take an inventory of what we don't know, and we make bets. We make predictions based on that. So hats off to you. Hats off to all the really talented people who have come on this show and come through with really, really good ideas about where we're heading. So little golf clap for you, Brian.
Yay.
Okay, but let's actually talk. We joke about polls being fake here a lot, but we do have this rare moment where we are learning that some of the polls people have been trading on are in fact fake. So
literally fake.
Yeah. It's fake as it gets. So I'm going to quote real quickly. I'm going to quote from the Los Angeles Times, a reporter named Noah Goldberg, who wrote a headline that got all of our attention this morning. Quote, poll showing Karen Bass leading Nithya Raman by double digits was bogus, company says. The lead of the piece reads, a poll claiming Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass was leading council member Nithya Raman by a wide margin in picking up support from most voters who backed Spencer Pratt in the mayoral primary was bogus, the company behind the poll acknowledged Monday. Now, you might have seen another headline. I just pulled one of many from the Newswire. This one's from Ben Stockton at The Telegraph, who said, quote, polling putting Democrats, socialists in the lead was fake, admits firm. Median Strategies, that's the name of this polling firm in both headlines, says data showing Francesca Hong with a 20-point advantage were part of a, quote, social experiment. Okay, Brian, Can we just ask like the most obvious question as a prediction market live stream? We have a company that is we know has produced two sets of fake polls.
A
Is
company.
this a scam? Is this a prediction market scam? Are we able to take that off the table, or do we need to go to like DEFCON 1 right now?
Could be. I don't know. I mean, what price? Like when we say scam, what we mean
Right.
is someone who put information out there purporting to be real into the market to try to move a price to make the other side cheaper. I don't know. I would price that reality at maybe like 60 cents,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's super interesting
Who
because it
cares
doesn't.
enough about polling that isn't in a prediction market like to do this? Anyone who cares that much about polling is trading markets or is a like thou shalt never trade markets nerd,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and the thing that's interesting about it is like, for example, there was a fake poll that Doug Campbell sent me today that said that what's his face, the scammy guy James Fishback is within
Yeah.
striking distance to beat Byron
Mhm.
Donalds. Like that was a fake poll that was clearly designed for like a campaign, but this is a fake
Yeah.
poll that seemed like it was designed to anchor a mispriced market and like could seemingly have created an opportunity for people to accumulate shares in said mispriced market. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't trying to change the market. It was trying to, if you are going to put on your Inspector Clouseau hat,
Yeah.
it was a poll that would have anchored the market in a place where the market was just
Yeah.
wrong.
Kind of a weird time to do that with a Bass Rahman poll though, because like, you know, that's not people aren't super interested in that one right now. Although I have
Yeah.
to say, even though it wasn't intended for campaigns, that Karen Bass social media campaign, the Karen Bass social media picked it up and ran with it and had a picture of Karen being like, "We got so much momentum, we're ahead by 11," which to me doesn't really speak well of her operation. That they're not vetting anything at all; they're just finding a
Right.
rando number on Twitter. And I don't know, what's your gut check on that right now? This isn't on our agenda, but I've been having some uh, sternly worded conversations with some colleagues about differences in opinion on this market.
Yeah, wait, are we talking about the LA mayor's race, or are we talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
well,
LA
let
mayor.
me just also like entertain another
Yeah,
explanation, which is just
yeah,
that this would be a great, if you were an academic, a
yeah,
Harvard sociology professor or something like this, this would be a great way to study how misinformation spreads.
yeah. Uh-huh.
So I don't think we should blame prediction markets for this, especially when there's no evidence for it. But we could entertain the idea. But there are, many explanations, and being fooled easily.
Sure.
Certainly we've all been there. I have a position on the LA mayor's race. I have a position on Nithya Raman. I just think that we
Yeah,
don't really know or understand that race very well, and having shares in the low 30s is kind of a good idea between now and November.
yeah.
Is that sophisticated enough to get past your guard?
Sure. I mean, here's what's weird about this, and I don't think that this really reveals much of anything. Is that most elections, the people who I know who are really, really good at elections tend to generally agree where the value is.
Yeah.
And in this election, I have friends who I trust who think each side is way underpriced, which is very, very rare for me. I have people I know who think Rahman is an amazing buy at 35. I have
Yeah.
people I know who think Bass is an amazing buy at 65. So I don't really have really much of an opinion myself. This doesn't happen very often. So I think a little TBD there, but the Bass campaign sure got fooled
Yeah.
for sure. But we got
Yeah.
other stuff too, not just fake polls, right? I mean, we got fake
That's
super
true.
PACs, fake
Yep. That's right.
candidates. It's like the summer of fakes
Yep. Yep. We got fake super
in
PACs. We
elections,
got
right?
fake Dan Sullivan today running in Alaska.
Oh yeah,
Um,
is fake Dan Sullivan going to win? I don't think
uh,
so.
I don't think so, but fake Dan
Yeah.
Sullivan, hats off to you. We have insider trading as a thing. We just have a lot of fake, and you gotta be on guard out there. There's everyone's picking up on this sort of summer of fake ways to confuse voters, ways to confuse traders, ways to confuse reporters. We're all
Can I
getting
tell
fooled
you a
right now.
really we're both recovering writers, right, in
Yeah.
different ways. The Dan Sullivan thing makes me think of a very stupid idea that I had for a movie once, and the idea was that some random guy in Iowa spent his whole life being told he looks like Richard Dreyfuss, and then
Yeah.
one day he just sort of snaps and thinks that he is Richard Dreyfuss and
Okay.
starts demanding people talk to him as Richard Dreyfuss, and it would be played, of course, by Richard Dreyfuss. And that's kind of what the Dan Sullivan thing reminds me of, is that maybe fake Dan Sullivan thinks he's real Dan Sullivan. Do we
Well,
know?
you can bet that belief today. He is on the ballot in Alaska. I think Alaska they will vote in whatever time zone they're in at some point today.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Tomorrow.
interesting, Richard Dreyfuss. You had to go with like the ugly guy movie star. Maybe a little Freudian signal there. Okay.
All right, what else do we got?
Well, let's talk about how to trade this for a second. So I think this was your idea, but in the ebb and flow of a podcast, I'm going to take it and make it my own.
Yeah, go.
Like there's been a lot of bemoaning the loss of the kind of easy 88 cents to 99 cent trade or 92 cent to 99 cent trades. These like markets that are all but resolved and people just want their cash back. And, so people were looking at, for example, Francesca Hong in the high 90s. They're looking at Byron Donalds today in the high 90s down in Florida. And you had sort of posited this idea that maybe it's the opposite that's true now, where there's just so much dumb money that's bonding candidates that we're actually in like an unprecedented golden age of 5 cent, 2 cent, 3 cent plays on long shot candidates. Are you actually backing this up with money, or is this just catnip for us to talk about?
No, I guess I'm just curious. I mean, there are a lot of people that are going to be trading elections for their first cycle with this midterm. We know that polls are bad and not getting better. And we know that also that primaries are much harder to poll than general elections by multiples. So, do I ever think it's a horrible idea to buy someone who's even has a pulse at like 3 or 4 cents? Maybe not. I mean, one thing that is worth remembering is that if you're following returns and you're quick, you can often buy something at 3 and then sell it back at 1 or 2 if you realize it's over before other people realize it over, which makes it less of a 3 cent buy and more of a 1 or 2 cent buy. I don't think we're entering into a period where a 5 cent election contract is just an auto buy. I think it was a bit fluky that we had 2 sort of idiosyncratic results in the same part of the country within a week of each other. But, I don't know. Time will tell. I mean, maybe we get a 1 cent winner in Florida today and I have to change my tune. I don't know.
All right, well, let's go there. So I'm going to go, we're going to flip over to Florida, the free state of Florida. I don't know if they still call it that, but I enjoyed it when they did. And we'll set it up, the primaries today. So Eric Weiss at CBS 12 News, I love going to like Ron Burgundy here, writes, let's hope it's not Brick Tamlin, writes, Florida voters choose nominees in crowded race to replace Ron DeSantis. Florida Republicans who have watched as the Sunshine State turn from the nation's biggest swing state to one dominated by the GOP will take their first step Tuesday towards ushering in a new era. Okay, let's talk about the obvious thing. So Byron Donalds, the Republican congressman who I think he did a very good job of cozying up to Donald Trump over the last couple of years, is a 99 cent favorite to win. We don't really care about this, right? Like we're taking off the table that someone else is going to win this. So stop me here if you disagree, but can we just like speed past Byron Donalds is going to win this race, or are we going to dwell on buy the 1 cent shares?
Speed past it. Byron Donalds is going to win this race.
Okay, Byron Donalds is going to win this race. Okay, so we just sped past it. So there's a different character in this race that we need to talk about for news and trading value. Can we start, like, let's just open the box on James Fishback. Brian, tell me your favorite fact about James Fishback.
My favorite fact out of so many.
Are there any facts about him? That's meta discourse.
Yeah, that's a good question. To the facts created, if someone says something enough, does it become a fact? I know that based on his social media that he has been doing a ton of campaign stops. I think yesterday he claims to have done 8. Everyone at the campaign stop looked like they were maybe old enough to drive.
Yep.
maybe, or or way too old to drive. No middle ground.
Yeah.
This is a guy who has a ton. It's sort of like Florida created Spencer Pratt, but made sure that he was like Florida, but then
Okay.
took
I like
away
this.
took away um, kind of charisma and added in racism. It was like if you took Spencer Pratt and then you were like, the racism is too subtle. It needs to be on the nose.
Okay, so James,
And
let me do my
yeah,
James Fishback thing here. So
yeah,
James
okay, okay.
Fishback is the ultimate stunt artist, meme artist. He built a Twitter following by suing the private equity fund or hedge fund he worked for. Then he claimed to start a hedge fund that only invested in non-woke companies. Then he claimed to have founded a hedge fund that only invested in people that would benefit from Javier Milei's presidency. Then he threw his hat. I mean, like, he's a 20-some-year-old kid, stunt after stunt after stunt, and like here he is in the governorship writing. I think he's running on like an open kind of Groyper's platform, kind of openly racist. He's endorsed by what's his face, Nick. You know who I'm talking about.
Fuentes.
Nick
Yeah.
Fuentes, Tucker Carlson. Anyway,
Mm.
so all of this is driving towards there's this like magnet for attention, total weirdo, and you are announcing the alpha on how to trade on whether or not this guy even makes a dent in this election. I am seeing on polymarket.com right now, by the way. So we're thinking about margin markets here. We've taken off the table that James Fishback is going to win. We are talking about trading his margin, trading his hype, trading his Groyperism. And what I see on polymarket.com is, call it a 48, 45% chance that he gets less than 10% of the vote. I am seeing a 35% chance that he gets 10 to 15% of the vote. So, Brian, what's the play here? Where are you going long? Where are you going short?
I think the market is caught up a little bit with
I hate it when it does that.
where I wanted to be, because I think originally the play. Look, this is tough. You're talking about single percentage points, and can anyone really divine in advance that big of a difference between 9%, 11%, 12%? It's really tough. I can't. But I think the market has started to. This morning, the market had moved way down and pushed his margin down, but now during the day, it's gone back up in terms of what the market expects his vote share to be. So I don't really know. I guess the thing that I would just say is worth remembering is I think a lot of this guy's appeal is very young, and this state is very old, and the typical Florida primary has way more retirees than college voters. I mean, you look at the pictures of his rallies, and it is almost like a demographic profile of people who say they're going to vote and don't vote. So I don't have any major alpha for you. I'm pretty skeptical that he hits some of the higher brackets that there are markets for. Although,
so if we were,
you're
taking
paying a
this
lot
yesterday, what would you have said? Just tell us what you're doing, man. Take
I
credit.
I bought some under yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm not buying anymore because those prices are kind of like all over the place. And it is also the day of the election, and I don't completely trust that no one out there isn't doing intelligent digging through turnout or something. But I do think that if you're gonna I think it would be awfully hard for him to get lower than like 3%, and I think it's awfully hard for him to get higher than 20%. You can lock in maybe 15-cent profit if you do those, and I think you'll probably win.
I mean, I think one of your kind of macro points for traders is just like, if you're going to buy shares on election day, you need to be prepared to watch the returns, and you need to know how to read them. Because you're oftentimes dealing with prices that like academically are close to what fair odds are. So be careful. Be careful.
There are a whole lot of people in the ideas section and the comments section who are very pro Fishback. And in my experience, those people do tend to be wrong more than they're right. I mean, the volume of comments. So, but we'll know. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out in a couple hours.
Okay. So James Fishback.
What's your take?
Dude, don't make me give a take on this.
Okay, all right.
Look,
I'm on a limb.
I mean, look, my take is that James Fishback is a fake candidate, but the
Yeah,
market has caught up to that take.
yeah, fair enough.
So I could wing it right now, but I'm
Yep,
going to let the
fair
audience
enough.
live with what you just said.
Okay, great.
Okay, cool. Let's go. So we got to stop one more place in Florida before we move on
Yeah.
to Luke Kawa, which
Okay.
should be the exciting conversations about Robinhood, AI, and finance. We'll get off of planet politics for a second there. Um, let's talk about Cory Mills quickly. So Cory Mills, for those of you who forgot or have had a life full of happiness and hobbies and joy and don't follow random congressmen, Cory Mills is a Republican in Florida, sort of Space Coast, Central Coast. And he is in a lot of trouble, sort of morally, maybe some domestic abusing going on, maybe some sexual proclivities that don't help you in a political career. Also, like allegedly, some stolen valor military situation. And the party, the Republican Party of Florida, has really turned against him. And we can talk about that. The market has really turned against him as he faces a primary from a local TV newscaster. But right now we're looking at 85% odds that Cory Mills loses his primary today. We need to talk about whether we're long or short at that price, because I get a little bit nervous when I see that price myself. Is your spidey sense sort of activating the way mine is?
Well, it's a big price. I mean, how much this his opponent has spent? Like what? Like $14? I mean, not
Yeah,
much, right?
yeah,
Like it's not like
yeah,
it's not like there's a situation where the establishment has buried him and then there's just a flood of money to make sure he stay dead,
yeah,
right? Like he's
yeah.
winning cash wise, isn't he?
He's so he hasn't raised basically any money since his scandal got really hot.
Okay.
So like I will construct the argument for why you should buy the 85-cent shares, and we can talk about whether it's a good argument. But the argument is that like clearly when you have Ron DeSantis de-endorsing him, you have Donald Trump quietly. Donald Trump has been reissuing his endorsements in Florida. He has not reissued his endorsement for Cory Mills. Anna Paulina Luna, the kind of social media celebrity congresswoman from Florida, has endorsed against him. So, and then you see that he hasn't really raised any money since, call it March or something like that. So, like, clearly the political establishment in Florida and in Washington has totally iced this dude out and is
Hmm.
just like going to let him wither on the vine. And therefore, he is guaranteed to lose today at 99-cent price. Do you agree?
No.
No.
I don't agree at
No.
99-cent price. No.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Here's
So
my
what do we not
question.
know?
Well, here's what I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about. Look, I don't pay attention to the House because all the
Yeah.
real,
This is awesome.
the heavyweights are in the Senate. But tell me more about this district. Is this a district where if they nominate someone who's a loser, that they have any chance of losing the seat, or is this
Yeah.
just a district where Republicans get to pick whoever they want, no matter what they did?
Yeah, this scuttlebutt is the Dems are going to target this district that they see a weak gazelle if Cory Mills goes through.
Okay. Okay. So maybe voters are considering some electability argument,
Yeah,
which sometimes they consider and sometimes they don't.
yeah.
Um,
It's
I don't know.
basically one poll. Like we're dealing with one poll. One poll. You're going to pay
Yeah.
85-cent shares. Now the poll shows Cory Mills decisively behind his GOP challenger, but it is one poll, and they are 85-cent shares, and that makes me a little bit nervous. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, I'd be nervous. Yeah, I'd be nervous.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not getting on the 85-cent side of that. I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm, going to jump on the 15, but I wouldn't be on the heavy favorite there if we're really talking about one poll.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I also saw in the poll that like a meaningful number of people were not aware of his ethical issues. Like when the pollster
Yeah.
introduced the idea that he had domestic abuse charges hanging over his head,
Huh.
like the numbers
Okay.
moved. So that tells me that where it's a primary. It just tells me this is weird. It tells me I'm not
Yeah.
buying 85-cent shares.
Here's another thing that's weird. While you were talking, instead of listening to every word you were saying, which I should have done as a friend, I
Yeah.
was Googling Cory Mills' Donald Trump endorsement. And I don't even know if all of the coverage of this is really reflecting that Trump has walked back this endorsement. Like I'm seeing articles within the last day that are really make it clear like he's still Trump is still, at 100 for him. So I don't know. I guess in sort of Republican primary circles, maybe they know that better than
Yeah.
I would, but I don't know if even that walkback is penetrating.
Okay. Okay. All right. So audience challenge. This is a challenge to the audience. Go out and trade this race and tell us we're stupid. These things are always obvious the day after, but betting a primary at 85-cent shares is requires more fortitude than I have in this instance. So audience challenge. And we need to swiftly move on to this wonderful show
Yeah.
that we have planned today. First of all, fam, reminder, we have a newsletter and you should be subscribed to it. So you can go to eventual.news/subscribe. On Mondays, you'll get a brief of what all of the top traders in our universe are thinking about. So you can sort of think the same thing because we like to hear ourselves talk. And then on Fridays, you'll get a great synopsis of the week and what's coming in our 5-chart Friday. So eventual.news/subscribe. Don't miss it. Second, Luke Kawa joining the show in just a few minutes as advertised. And then we have Suzy Weiss from the Free Press joining on the back end to get us out of here, out of election and politics land. Brian, this is our pick of the week time. I'm going to give you mine right now.
Go for it.
Okay. I will be making this pick again before this year is over. Literally any bill passing Congress. Literally any bill passing Congress. Literally any bill passing Congress. The markets are just punishing any high ticket important piece of legislation. They're all underdog picks right now. There will be a lame duck. Some of these things will get sorted out. You can look forward to us covering this more in the future, but I think there's a lot of value on the Clarity Act, the NDAA, FISA, you pick it. These are sub 20-cent shares. A lot of these are going to go through at the end of the year.
Okay, good. I like that. My pick of the week is have to confess, I am getting more Tallarico pilled all the time in Texas. I'm really starting to see the path for Blexes, at least in the Senate. But I feel like I missed the boat on buying Tallarico as cheap as I could have when it was in the 40s, and now I think it's maybe 50 or even above. So
Yeah.
I want it cheaper. I want to go back in time and buy James Tallarico to win the Texas Senate seat for under 50 cents. I cannot build a time machine, but what I can do is I can buy the combo of James Tallarico in Texas and Troy Jackson in Maine, because that's 43 cents right now on Kalshi. I do not think there is a world where James Tallarico wins in Texas and Maine does not go blue. You can say whatever you want about Susan Collins. I don't think it's happening. I think that Tallarico plus Jackson at 43 cents is pretty much just Tallarico at 43 cents.
So you're basically trading against like two inevitability theorems of American politics. One, that Texas is now and will always be a red state, and one that 250 years ago, when our great-great-grandchildren are studying our time, Susan Collins will still be the Republican senator in Maine. So you're sort of defying two axioms of American politics. That seems very brave, Brian.
Defying gravity. That's what we're going to do here. I think if you don't think Tallarico is going to win Texas, don't make the trade. But if you do, I don't really think there's a world where Tallarico wins and Susan doesn't go bye-bye also. So that's the combo. That's my play.
All right. Well, we've got the next 2 months to talk about this. Let's shift gears now. I'm super excited. So joining the show right now is Luke Kawa from Sherwood News. Luke's an interesting dude. He has been a journalist at Bloomberg. He has worked on Wall Street proper. And now he is an editor at a publication that's sort of Robinhood's content arm. I'll let him correct me if I've done anything wrong with his bio. But Luke, welcome to Eventual. How you doing?
All good. You nailed it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We're super excited by what you're doing, kind of bringing Robinhood into the content galaxy, and of course, we're trying to bring the mountain of prediction markets to the same range. Let me just ask you real quick, like, we think of Robinhood as like our cousins, basically. I'm stealing a Brian Goldenism here. But we think of them as like our distant cousins. We know they're in our family. We don't really know why they dress the way they do. We don't know if they eat the same food for dinner, but we do know we're related. And just off the top, like, are we the same people as your people, or are we different people? Like, are we a compatible family, prediction market traders and Robinhood traders?
I think the combination of the activity existing on both platforms, and even all within one umbrella under Robinhood, would tell you that yes, if the same people who are trading stocks on Robinhood also seem to be fairly active in prediction markets. At least that would be my read of the company's latest earnings report, which
Right.
did show a pretty material pickup there, and that is a big source of sales for Parent Co. So yeah, no, you might have a little better hair than me, might have got the better genetics, but I still think we're in the family.
But when I read your earnings reports, or I read the realistically, I read the headlines about your earnings reports. It says that Robinhood is doing as much volume in prediction markets, or maybe a little more than traditional stocks. And is that real, or is that just the World Cup happened and it's all sports volume?
Yeah, can't speak too much to Parent Co trends. Like I don't have any special
Yeah.
insight there relative to the rest of the universe, but can say that hey, I think everyone's kind of waiting to find out. It what does seem kind of clear though is that the margin of their profitability there on a kind of per activity basis does seem to be a a fill-up to financial results.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then let me just ask you, like, to tee up kind of who you are a little bit. So I remember back in the day, you were one of the early reporters to sort of chronicle the Reddit finance culture, or Wall Street bets and stuff like that. Like, is there any? Do we remind you of that, or are we just like too weird and too nerdy, and like we're not going to change the world the way that Roaring Kitty and those people did?
I remind me of that. So yeah, no, I totally think so. I do think that when you're looking at both a lot of stocks that get traded often or a lot of prediction markets that get traded the most often, what you see that has in common are there are things that stir people's passions. People are mixing emotion and finance, and the reason why it manifests in sports so often, and the reason why it manifests in say companies that are owned by Elon Musk so often is because it's a team feeling. It's a following. It's a some could say cult. But hey, we like to cheer for things. We like to get attached to things, and I'm certainly no different on that front.
That's interesting that you brought up emotion, because when people ask me, like, what is the future of prediction markets, I guess I'm somewhat bearish about some of these markets existing in 5 years, but I always feel like elections and politics will always have an audience, because there is that partisanship, there's that emotional piece. People are always going to sort of want to come on and engage with how their home team is doing. But I haven't really thought of that in terms of the tech side and AI and the company side. But as you say it, it does seem like there are some of those personalities in that world that stand to generate continual opinion making.
Yeah, I think you saw it best with in 2021 with GameStop, just with a entire community getting built up about around it online. And I think one thing that we do find as there's less kind of in-person contact, or that's kind of been trending lower, social interactions in public, it's not too hard. Like I haven't found a problem making real, genuine uh, connections over the internet with a bunch of folks, some of whom I've gone on to meet a lot, some of whom I haven't. I think the ability to find community online and then express that through financial instruments is
Mm.
something that's relatively new. But you see it in GameStop, and then you see it perk up in things like, hey, a couple of months ago it was Wendy's. Before that, it was Beyond Meat. People can find something to band together and cheer around. Particularly, one thing that I see that's common when you're building community is it has to have a kind of us versus them mentality. So, for instance, Beyond Meat, that was the one that was fleeting, but still there. It was another case of a company with relatively high short interest. In that case, it wasn't necessarily just always because there was a bunch of people betting against Beyond Meat. Yes, there was. There was also a convertible bond outstanding. There was some kind of effectively latent hedging regarding to that, keeping short interest high. But any excuse you have to make a team online and then make a financial campaign around it, that's something that people are willing and increasingly able to do.
So, like,
Okay.
one of the reasons why we're super interested in what you do is like we view content as a mechanism to create community, and then you can build businesses around a community's wants and needs too. But like, we just view you as being very close to, young people trading financial instruments. Like, we view you as just having a close relationship with those people because you are a content source that they rely on. And if that's not true, tell me so. But I have a strong belief that it might be. But I'm also just sort of interested in, like, now that you've said this, is like the Sam versus Dario rivalry, like, does that do you see that when you post content? Do you see that drive audience interest or even drive like, investment decisions that people make? Based on what you just said, that people's sense of identity and allegiance to Sam Altman versus like Dario Amodei, for example, can actually weigh on how your audience wants to invest.
What's interesting with regards to those two characters is I'd say it's more a rotating bag of which one do we feel more negative about at one point in time that can motivate investment decisions. For instance, I would say late last year, we can say maybe from July through November, I would say it was the anything close to OpenAI gets kind of slaughtered guilty by association. And I think that we had a month 6 weeks ago, I'd say more of a stretch of kind of Anthropic being in the penalty box. That was 2 weeks ago, man. News moves
Yeah.
too fast.
Yeah.
But we have some stretches of that. But I do think that there is more of a sense of people. You can't accept in prediction markets, but for a lot of these, it's easier to trade kind of bank shot derivative plays that might be very closely tied to one or the other. The kind of open AI ecosystem is a lot easier, I'd say, with your soft banks, your Microsoft. Before it was a lot easier, and so on, to like express the direct bet in terms of your animus towards how OpenAI is doing, and then having that reflected in financial decisions. So certainly we do see something I see often, and something that I think is quite powerful, is just the power of narrative and story and trend to drive a lot of investment decisions. And once that happens, it feeds on itself, and you get some tremendous kind of year-defining moves in markets that happen on the combination of data and story.
Okay, well, I want to ask you about that. So you wrote recently, you're going to hear yourself be quoted to you for a moment here. You were writing about kind of the capital race that everyone's fixated on in the AI business, but you wrote, quote, hyperscalers, the company with among the biggest revenue generating capabilities in the world and robust balance sheets, are driving a ton of borrowing, as is the US government. The way debt problems become risk problems is if these fail to create sufficient returns, or if all of the spending associated with the increase in indebtedness fuels inflation, and that inflation causes the central bank to jack up interest rates until overall activity succumbs to tighter policy. Okay, I had to read that like 5 times. I'm still not quite sure what it means. I think Brian does. My question is, are you an AI bear, or are you saying that like all of the debt that is piling onto AI companies, whether it's on the balance sheet or off the balance sheet, doesn't matter, and like we are on the cusp of all being very rich from tokens?
Great part is I'm not smart enough on the merits to evaluate the technology well enough to be an AI bull or bear, kind of in the existential sense. What I can say is that the amount of money that's being dedicated to this, it's not stopping in the very near term. When you can say that, you start to think about the ripple effects. Okay, well, if we're going to continue to throw money at bottlenecks, which is what companies have shown they're very willing to do, and what NVIDIA is trying to mobilize even more capital to do, if you try to do that for a long enough period of time and in sufficient amounts, that's inflationary. That's going to cause the prices of the components that are in short supply, whether that's power, whether that's optics, whether that's memory, whether that ends up being CPUs. That's going to cause prices to go up. And I'm more concerned about a world in which, when we're talking about, and all of these companies have talked about effectively, the risk is spending too little, not spending too much. That's been a common refrain from any mega cap CEO. When you have both that attitude, and when you have the massive growth and the cloud businesses that they've had that's linked to their data center buildouts, well, what do higher interest rates do? I think they would crush the rest of the world before they do anything to that kind of impetus and that kind of borrowing. So what I'm kind of thinking more about is just, how does the rest of the world grapple with the call on resources and the call on money that the AI boom is harnessing at this juncture? That's what I find to be one of the most, if not the most, fascinating stories in finance right now.
So all of that sort of condenses to a couple kind of boilerplate trades on polymarket.com, on prediction markets broadly. And there's a lot of action that's just going into trying to anticipate when Anthropic and OpenAI will IPO. So I'll sort of just like pitch you the markets as they exist now. So the markets are pretty confident that Anthropic is true to its word and are giving an 85% chance that that IPO happens this year. They're pretty bullish on OpenAI punting into 2027. And just like given time value of money or EV or whatever you want to call it, like what sounds like the smarter play to you, to take the 85-cent yes shares that Anthropic does its IPO this year, or the 20-cent yes shares that OpenAI comes out of nowhere and finishes its transaction before New Year's Day?
Oh man, I'm a wuss. I get enough of my risk in so I'd probably go for the Anthropic in that case. And one thing I think that at least I've seen recently in terms of flows from retail that would, encourage Anthropic. Because I think one reason why you might think, hey, Anthropic might pause or not go forward is how SpaceX fell out of the gate, got its butt kicked pretty much shortly after rising. One thing I can say is that recently, at least on the Robinhood platform, it's been the most bought stock over the past month, SpaceX. And in the past 5 days, it's doubled its average, what it's done over the past month. So if you want to think forward to, hey, like, who's going to be willing to buy this, even if they have access to the IPO? It does seem like there is a very high desire, at least on the part of retail, to put floors under these stocks that the companies they've known but have not been able to access as directly as other names in public markets.
Brian, do you want to talk about AI? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I want to talk about the Fed because I just started trading Fed rates, okay? And I've been pretty successful in some other economic indicators, namely inflation. But I want to talk about the Fed because I feel like I'm at a beach and they just said, hey, everyone, our shark sensors just went out. We don't know when there are any sharks in the water. And I'm like, great, I'm going to go swimming for the first time. I feel like this new era of Kevin Warsh is really tricky. And it seems harder than the Powell era to figure out where things are going, not just in how they're communicating, but in why they're communicating and even the competing signals. What is the new, what's my Fed decoder ring? Like how do I do this? I know that it's a lot, but what am I parsing through right now to get to really the essence of how the Warsh Fed's reaction function is going to work?
I think the first thing that you can do and that I'm trying to do, it's really difficult because we've been conditioned so much to follow the chair as kind of the consensus builder on the committee.
Yeah.
And, it's not often that the chair will go one way and the committee will go another. But one thing I'm trying to do is disassociate the idea of the Warsh-led Fed. I'm trying to focus on, I'm doing the really kind of nutty thing, but accounting Fed official by Fed official. What's annoying is that some of the voting members who are on the board of governors don't really speak that often. And when they do, they don't really talk monetary policy that often. They'll talk regulation or they'll talk kind of money markets, but they won't necessarily give a lot of firm monetary policy views. One person that I think has stood out for a while as having intellectual help on the Fed and generally been a month or two ahead of where the committee ultimately ends up going is Chris Waller. He's there. He's still going to be there. I would consider his shifts to be a guiding light. And kind of one thing that happened ahead of the most recent meeting was Waller said, "Hey, if the next inflation reading isn't good, then we might have to hike rates." So what happens then? Both the implied odds of a potential hike at that meeting went up. The risk that changed and was traded around that CPI report when it ended up coming in soft was larger than normal. So I think kind of what you have to do is listen to everyone else a little more and also know that the volatility on data releases is going to be a little bit higher than, and perhaps a lot higher than it was in the past. So I think the Warsh Fed is amazing for trading opportunities as it relates to the Fed, but not necessarily, the best if you're looking for a very clean tea leaves on what's going to happen with policy.
So that's really helpful, actually. One thing I did at trying to solve a different trading problem, which was predicting which senators would vote for a certain bill, was kind of basically put them in a line and say, well, if this person votes for it, everyone to this side of them is probably going to vote for it too. Now you can find these Fed like dove to hawk charts, right, where it sort of puts them on a dove to hawk scale. Do you think that one is able to go and do something like, oh, okay, Waller says this, so everyone to this side of him is likely to think the same way? Or are we just sort of in a multi-dimensional committee member era?
I would like to say yes, because that would be great, right? That would be easy. And
it would be great.
I would say I think, in terms of breaking the tie or adding that to kind of your the composium or mosaic of metrics that you'd consider, yes. Then what kind of gets me is I look at the 3 Fed officials who dissented at the most recent meeting. You read their dissents, whether read or some of them just more spoke them out. It's a lot of different reasons. So you can't necessarily know, like, hey, if one thing changes, that might be more important to someone else, but not important to another person's more hawkish case. For now, what's kind of been really interesting as it relates to the Fed is that it doesn't really seem like the labor market data is in any way kind of informing the inflation backdrop a lot. Like, we've just been living in a world of rolling supply shock after rolling supply shock, and it feels like at this time, if they're hiking, it's basically them saying, okay, we've had enough of all these rolling supply shocks with the potential for more to come because of how much we're spending on the AI boom. It's really a divorce, and it's really a prioritization of one part of the dual mandate of inflation and employment. And that's just because they can feel a little more able to do that with unemployment still being very low and having trended lower, and inflation still being, pretty sticky high even after that last reading.
Do you think there comes a point where the Fed recontextualizes the Iran war and oil disruptions and says, this isn't a shock anymore, this is just an underlying condition because this has been going on long enough and we have no resolution one way or the other, and we have to stop treating this as a shock to the system and just a part of it for the foreseeable future?
Yes, 100%. And I think the Fed, if you especially read through the minutes of their monetary policy reports, and we'll get one tomorrow, but the Fed has kind of been moving in that direction for quite a bit. When you first saw the war in Iran breakout, what Fed officials said was, like, you have the many most, you're trying to discover who actually thinks what and where majority opinion is, but it was either many or most, but it was the highest number effectively they attached to the statement. Most people were worried about downside risks to growth stemming from an oil price shock. That's how they started out. Now it's kind of one of the primary conditions that has them worried about more persistent inflation. So they've clearly evolved and are moving in that direction in terms of how they're treating the oil shock. And that's something that's manifest in kind of pretty sticky high gasoline prices and high refining spreads, and that's something that the end consumer does feel and see on a pretty consistent basis.
Okay, so let me ask you, what can I do? We got to get a price out of this guy. We can't just let him talk theory. We got to hold a gun to his head and make him give his actual opinion. First Fed hike before the election, after the election, or not this year?
This year.
Okay.
This year, I think, and the reason why is I feel like your outs are the people, or the not hike case, I think, rests upon everything that's been happening recently and the data continuing to happen, and none of the prior kind of 6-month trend, 8-month trend, whatever you want to call it, reasserting itself. So I just think especially from an asymmetry or a trading side, when you've got it at 50-50 right now for a hike by year end, I know I would rather take the other side of that and know or hope that at least you're getting up to 75 and can take yourself out there if you're still concerned.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you. All right.
Cheers.
Very helpful.
Let me just ask you before you go. I'm going to try and sell you some shares of some prediction markets that are out in your area. You have been a journalist. You've worked in high finance. You've covered Wall Street Bets. You're at Sherwood now, which has connectivity to a different investor profile. So these are going to be some weird bets. First of all, I love this market. I don't know how to price it. I love it though, because it's sort of a proxy for how quickly will AI's capability escalate beyond our ability to contain it. Cloudflare cybersecurity breach by September 30th. I've got 40-cent shares of there being a major security breach at Cloudflare by September 30th. Are you buying that? Is an AI going to escape and cause great harm to us?
40-cent shares of that.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I think I can get much better exposure in terms of puts somewhere else. Like I think if Cloudflare is going down, you'd probably want like some very wingy puts somewhere else in the distribution. That's too high for me. Too expensive.
All right.
Love it.
OpenAI to launch a consumer hardware goodie. So I don't know if it's an earpiece or a phone, whatever you want it to be. OpenAI to start selling consumer hardware by the end of the year. 11% odds. So I got 11-cent shares for you. Do you want them?
I don't want them, but my main answer is going to be why. If there's a why contract that I can buy for that, that's the one I want.
Wait, what do you mean why?
Why consumer hardware? Like I would just say like the lack of focus and the ability of Anthropic to gain more share in coding, and like, even though Codex is pretty great by all accounts, but the ability of Anthropic to really specialize and get out to a stronger lead there, I think has been a big determination of how quote unquote seriously people take the companies. And I don't think moving more down the consumer hardware path is something that engenders a lot of success. Also not, traditionally speaking, a very high margin business.
Got it. Okay, and then I've got any open source AI model. So I'll give you SpaceX, what's it called? GrokX, Meta, I'll give you Kimi, any open source AI model being the top model on planet Earth by the end of the year at 10 cents. Are you a buyer or a seller?
You're making me sell all these tails, and I'm selling all of the tails apparently. But I like it's hard to tell, or it's hard to have certainty on the idea of distillation or not. But I think to the extent that that's playing any role, it makes it hard to bet on the open source case in that realm.
All right. Well, Luke, tell people where they can find you.
You can find me at Sherwood News. I write the Entry Point newsletter there. You can subscribe, and you can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky or any socials at LJKAWA.
Luke, thanks for joining Eventual.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, gents.
Brian, I feel like we'll do a little sneak preview of the rest of the year, but we've got Suzy Weiss coming in just a moment.
Cool.
I think you owe the people an election guide to your home state of Iowa. Can we set a hard deadline for when you're going to come back with some hot fire on that?
Yeah, we could do it next week. I'm scared because I want to get Iowa right. There really hasn't been a ton of polling, so maybe this is a good time to get into it. We'll do Iowa Senate and Iowa governor, maybe even the House races next week. We can just go all Iowa all the time, baby.
Well, I think the market's appetite for all things Iowa is pretty insatiable. Maybe we can drip it out, over the course of the year. Hottest state in America. But we'll look forward to that. We have like the two best looking political candidates of this cycle in what's your face, your boy Sand and Ashley Hinson. So Hollywood, watch out.
But they're running for separate offices. It's like a mismatched sort of will they, won't they? Maybe they both win. Maybe they have to work together. Maybe they have beautiful Iowa babies. Yeah.
Could be. Hot people prediction index. I think it's usually somewhat predictive. I don't like to bet on people who are grievously overweight because America is a skin deep country, but we can look forward to that next week. Now, let me remind the people one more time. We have a great newsletter. Okay. We have more than just a show. We have a website, eventual.news. If you're watching this on YouTube, we have an X feed where we post clips all the time. If you're watching this on X, we have a YouTube channel where we have lots of goodies too. But please do take the time and go to eventual.news/subscribe, eventual.news/subscribe, and sign up for our newsletter. You'll get lots of updates and bonus content and you'll just get to be part of the team, which I couldn't think of anything better. So with that said, we're going to throw now to Suzy Weiss. We're going to wave goodbye, and we're going to throw to Suzy Weiss from the Free Press. And she did this super fun interview with us about one Times Person of the Year, which prediction markets seem to think is Zoran Mamdani. Award season preview. It's about to be September. September means prestige movies that Brian will talk about, and then the Gen Z election. Like, we've got this big election. Gen Z is going to play a role in it. Suzy and the Free Press are pretty wired into all of these things, so we're super excited to bring her onto the show. And Brian, I'll see you later from your in-laws' guest room.
See you next week, buddy. It's always fun. See you later.
All right. Now to Suzy. Let's do it. Okay, joining us now is Suzy Weiss. She's a reporter at the Free Press, and she hosts the Second Thought podcast, which you should go listen to right now. Suzy, you are kicking off our pop culture coverage here at Eventual. Welcome to the show, and gold medal to you, I suppose.
Thanks for having me, Alex. I'm so honored. It can only go up from here. So we're gonna kick it off on a good note.
I think you need to be kinder to yourself. But tell people before we get started, though, what do you do on the Second Thought? What's your sort of métier on your podcast that our listeners should check out?
Oh my God, that's such a beautiful word. At Second Thought, we try to cover popular culture and unpopular culture. So things people might not be talking about, maybe stories that are underreported. Of course, we give our scalding hot takes, no holds barred, on things like Taylor Swift's wedding, and Ariana Grande stepping back from the limelight. But we also try and cover things that people aren't talking about. And then as well, we do big interviews. So we had Casey Neistat on the show. He was a really early vlogger on YouTube. We had
Love that guy.
Ron. Yeah, he was a mega manager for Justin Bieber and Ariana Grande and all of these people. So we try and find people kind of pushing culture, moving it, and it's really fun. Everyone should come listen to it.
Yeah. I will say, I think I was on your co-host side of the Taylor Swift wedding. I personally loved that she had the exact same overproduced wedding buffet as like every middle-class American wedding now. I think that's a feature, not a bug.
Like a kind of like Ohio pride to like the tastelessness of everything that's going on.
Yeah. Feature, not a bug. I will look forward to your coverage of Lauren Sanchez next. I think there's a lot of runway
We
here.
did cover her. We had her profiler, Amy Chozick, on the show recently, and she wrote an amazing piece for the New York Times called "Someone Has to Be Happy. Why Not Lauren Sanchez Bezos?" And I'm a big LSB fan. I'm long on LSB. I don't know if that's bettable on, but I think she's great.
I'm glad to hear you say that. This is one of the biggest points. I just got married, and one of the biggest points of conflict in my marriage is whether Lauren Sanchez Bezos is cool or not. And I'm like, let her be tacky. Let her live.
Marriage.
Yeah.
Wait,
Let her go.
you think she's cool?
I'm like, let her just do her thing. Like we only hate on her because we're jealous. Like, she's having a good time. Don't penalize people for being happy. That's sort of my vibe.
I completely agree.
Okay. All right. Well, we are in August, which means when we turn the calendar over in a couple weeks, we're going to be in kind of award season for the Oscars. We're going to be thinking about like end of the year trends. It all happens very quickly. We love prediction markets because one of the things that they do is sort of frame up big questions and big trends. And I thought we could be the first one to talk about, hear me out here, but I think we can be the first people in the country to talk about the Time Person of the Year. And I think it's interesting because it really gets at like who the most powerful and influential people on the planet are. And this seems like this is up your alley. So how about I read a quote from Walter Isaacson, and then we can talk about what the markets say, and then we can talk about what your spidey sense says. Does that sound cool to you?
Sounds great.
All right, let's cook. Okay, so Time's own marketing copy goes to Walter Isaacson, the former editor there. He says, quote, "The title of Person of the Year goes to the person or persons who most affected the news for our lives, for good or for ill, and embody what was important about the year for better or worse." So I'm like super fascinated. The prediction markets think that Zoran Mamdani is like the runaway favorite at 30% to be the Person of the Year. Like, do you like, socialism seems like it's on the march? Like, are you hot or cold on this take that Mamdani is like the man for the minute, the man for the year in the United States of America?
So there's two questions here. One is, who is the guy of the year? Who defines the year? The next is, who will Time magazine, which is sort
Yeah.
of speaking to an elite. I think, who owns it? Didn't the Benioffs buy
Yeah,
Time
yeah, yeah. The
magazine?
Salesforce guy, right?
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, these cowards should give it to Jensen, but they won't. You know what I mean? Or like an Alex Karp or a Palmer Luckey, maybe.
Yeah.
But I do think it'll probably go to a Mamdani. Maybe they'll kind of go even a little edgier and do Abdul Al-Sayed, who just won the Democratic primary in Michigan. But I think in general, you have to sort of look at how these publications are trying to position themselves, not who is like the objective defining person of the year. I think like a very unoffensive Times person of the year could be like an Allison Liu.
Who's that? I don't even know who that is. Am I
um,
stupid?
No, the figure skater, the Olympic figure skater.
Oh, yeah. She was
Alyssa
awesome. She
Liu,
was
Alyssa
awesome.
Liu.
Yeah.
Like, she deserves it. And she's like a young American. She's Gen Z. She's kind of weird. But I don't think it's going to go to her.
Yeah. So I feel like maybe there's also, I like that you're framing this up as like, who do elite journalists and the people who pay for their content like? But then I'm like, okay, what are the big trends on the planet right now that we're paying attention to? Mondami captures the rise of socialism, the rise of AI. Jensen's a good
Or
pick.
a Leopold Ashburger. I don't know how to say his last name.
No one does. No one does.
No one does. It's unknowable.
Yeah. And just like his portfolio. But the other trend that we're missing, I feel like, is peace in the Middle East, if that comes. And I wonder if, like, Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, the Saudi crown prince, like, if a peace deal gets done, he's a 9-cent underdog, so he's pretty far outside in the field. But does the world start to rehabilitate MBS if he can tidy up this war with Trump? Like, do you think that's too far for journalists to go?
Not at all. I don't even think he was fully soiled.
Yeah.
Like, I think they would give it to him in a second. I mean, maybe Abraham Accords were too far out from it. I mean, you can give it to Jared Kushner.
Yeah, that'll be the day.
Jared Kushner. That's a whole. I'm sure there's crazy prediction markets for the Nobel and the Turing and all of those big awards too. But
yeah,
I mean, imagine if they put Netanyahu on the cover of Time as Time person of the year.
They put. I'm not saying what it sounds like I'm saying, but like they've put a lot of people journalists don't like on the cover. Like they put Hitler, I think they put Mao, and they put Stalin, and they put Trump. Like these are not people journalists like.
I mean, Trump is the person of the year every year. Like you just can't give it to him every time, but he is like the culturally defining figure, I would say. Even as his like, he's going to sort of enter his like lame duck moment. Tucker really, I mean, if you're trying to track like where the right has gone, for example, I don't know if that's like person of the year territory, but it would be headline grabbing if they did him.
For sure.
Who do you think it should be?
I mean, to me, like the obvious pick would be what you came out of the gate with, like Jensen Huang or Dario Amodei. But I think they gave some sort of group. They like to give these group gold coins out sometimes to like the architects of AI last year. And it's like, is that just kind of boring to play the same song, to play the Eras Tour another summer here?
They did like the Time 100, like people who are fighting AI. My view, and I'm just like so a new worldist over an institutionalist, is that Time Person of the Year, any of these kind of like group projects, it all sort of trends towards Forbes 30 under 30, which as we know is just like a sheet of people who are going to go to jail for crimes. So whoever it is, it almost is like a signal that like their cachet is waning, is my take. But maybe I'm just like kind of anti these like awards that make it like it's like the second you're chosen for it, all people say is, well, he's not really that. They should have chosen this guy.
Right. Well, so maybe the markets, the liquidity on the markets are so low that it's hard to interpret any data or a signal or, whatever investor words here at this stage. But I'm sort of intrigued to see how the Saudi Crown Prince, MBS, Bibi Netanyahu, and like Jensen Huang, Dario Amadeus type character fare as like the discourse gets bigger. Those are maybe my three horses. Do you want to pick a couple?
On the list?
Jalen who? Let me see.
Jalen Brunson, the Knicks point guard.
Oh, maybe he should be. Why? See, this is why I like you. Why do I need to be paying attention to this guy?
Yeah, I'm like, what about the basketball player?
Yeah.
I think he was just such an underdog, and people loved that. He's short in terms of basketball players, and
Yeah.
he led the Knicks to victory after what was it, a 60-year,
Yep.
30-year dry
Yeah.
spell. Or honestly, I always talk about this guy. It's actually getting weird. James Dolan has had such a banner year. He owns MSG and the
Yeah.
Sphere,
Yep.
and he hosted Taylor Swift's wedding. He hosted the Knicks playoffs, and he's just printing money. He's like kind of the Trump of stadiums. So I think he would get my personal Time magazine. Like, we all have a Time Person of the Year in our hearts. So I'll just see how it stacks up to the real one.
These definitely seem like the people who get like the Alex Soros inside the New York penthouse. You know how they have like there's like the 100, and like these feel like people that are going to get their inserts, but they're not going to get the cover to me.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, but we'll have fun no matter what. Okay, let's talk briefly. We said we were going to tease up award season. Okay, so we're going to get like maybe the point of this segment is that maybe we already got a lot of them, but we're going to get the traditional prestige films coming out September, October, November, December. But like right now, if you look at the prediction markets, and there is a fair amount of liquidity here, so there's an opinion coalescing. Like the big movies this year are the ones that people think really have the nation's attention. The Odyssey, Project Hail Mary, and Dune are the three of the favorites. The Odyssey is like a 50-50 favorite to win Best Picture. So sort of like my question is, does this definitively mean we've ended the era of kind of like messagey, woke social cinema and like moved into an era where sort of spectacle and tension and sort of like old Hollywood storytelling are what we should expect? Like, are you on that train?
It's such a good question. It's hard to say, I think, especially because it's like we're in like the moment of like the summer blockbuster. I don't think the Odyssey's going to win it. Did Oppenheimer win Best Picture?
Yeah. That's the problem, right? Is they're too close together.
They're too close together. Oppenheimer deserved it. The Odyssey did not.
Yeah.
I mean, I think last year you had like kind of the return of these like Odyssey-like big movies with Marty Supreme and One Battle After the Other. Even though Marty Supreme won no awards. So I don't think Honora won Best Picture. Over Marty Supreme.
Yeah.
Which was actually a conservative movie. People sort of think it's not, and everyone talks about it as if it isn't, including the people who make it. But I think it was kind of a socially conservative movie and an anti-sex work movie. Just because the conclusion is so dark.
And what? Because it's like blue collar, kind of like middle 50% of America.
It's a reimagination of Cinderella, right? So she's this stripper and sex worker in Brighton Beach, I believe, or Brooklyn, and then she, gets plucked up from this oligarch, and it's all, roses, and they get married in Vegas, and she's gonna live happily ever after. And then his parents swoop in, and they're like, "Where are you? What are you doing? You can't marry this girl." And he just basically leaves her on the tarmac. And it's really like, ooh, a gut punch. But I'm trying to think. I mean, compared to like 2020, when you had like Promising Young Woman and I don't know. I don't even know. What was the one with the deaf guy?
Coda, I think. Is that right?
I never saw that. I'm never going to see that.
Oh, that's a good one. You can see that
Train Dreams. I'm never going to see Hamnet. I'm just not going to see these movies that it's just like, oh, we're really going to do this. But I hope it's true. But I also think there's what you're saying, that we're kind of past the like struggle session movie. But I do think you can like tip over into the other direction too hard. And that would be like your Michael. You know what I mean? I don't know if you saw that.
Where we just delete everyone's troubling biography and focus on the cotton candy of it.
And just that it's just like a concert. You're just at a concert. You're not really at a movie, which is fine, but it's a different thing. So I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, if the Oscars, like Time Magazine of the Year, were like honest with themselves about what the thing of the year would be, I think at this point we would have to give it to the horror movies, the low budget horror movies,
so
Bathrooms and Obsession, which are sort of these like plucky underdog films that like totally took over the zeitgeist. but I don't think they're gonna win.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me just put a number on it then. So the Odyssey is, call it, depending on the day, a 50-50 favorite to win Best Picture.
Yeah,
So the choice for traders who like follow this stuff every day is basically the Odyssey or the Field. I was going to ask you for Best Picture if you would take the Odyssey or the Field, but it sounds like you would take the Field. Do you think that
I
there's
would
more
take the
something?
field at this point.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't even know what's meant to come out.
Whoa,
Um,
I will tell you because I'm excited about
Tell
some of
me.
the stuff that's coming out. Martin McDonough doing whatever he does, and with Wild Horse 9. I'm excited about that movie. And what's the one? It's the continuation of Brad Pitt's character in what was the '60s movie? Once Upon a Time in Los Angeles.
Once
I
Upon a
think
Time
this
in
is.
Hollywood.
Oh yeah, yeah. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Brad Pitt's character has a movie that's built around him coming out. The Adventures of whatever the hell his name is, Clint or something like that. So
Oh, interesting. Is the
great
last movie
commentary here.
Tarantino meant to come out with Shane Gillis this year?
Oh, is
That's
he
like
in
good
that?
not to win, but
Yeah,
I would be curious to see it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, regardless, like there's plenty of movies yet for people to get excited about, but it's fun to have these in our back pocket already. It seems like it's kind of been a good year for filmmaking.
It's been a great year for movies, and I think especially like a lot of people were kind of down on the Odyssey, but it's like think about the past movies of the summer. It's like
Yeah,
Spider-Man 18, like
yeah.
Spider-Man versus you know, I don't even know, Green Lantern or
It's
something.
so forgettable, right?
Well, but now it's like now we're getting in fights over whether Xenia was really this value during ancient Greece, and it's like, well, this is a pretty highbrow discussion to be having around the movie of the summer. Everyone, I like have been noticing this around tech people. They're really into these like Greek concepts. I was
Yeah,
talking like telos. It's kind of a new flourishing.
yeah,
It's like a lot of discussion of like these ancient Greek concepts, and it's like dignitas and like humanos and stuff. And it's like you could just say the word in English, but people are having fun with it.
That's interesting. I grew up in the '90s and early 2000s, and everyone was like really into Japanese culture, and I mean, like early Quentin Tarantino movies, right? Like very influenced by Japanese culture. And it's interesting that you point that out. It rings true now that kind of these Greek concepts or how people frame their thinking in this modern era. I'm going to write that down, and I might even
Yeah,
give you
I think
credit
we are
for it.
going to see a lot more myths imagined
Yeah,
on screen and on stage, and I think that'll be a really cool, good thing.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Bible stories. I think the Bible's going to come back big.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, not for nothing, I would love to see some Bhagavad Gita storytelling, just like heroic, kind of millennia's old religious storytelling is powerful stuff. So if you've got money out there, go make some stories from the Old Testament and the Bhagavad Gita, please.
Yeah, I think people are sort of reaching towards the ancient texts, especially on the edge of like technological revolution.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. All right, so real quick, you're here. I'm going to make you do something that people probably do all the time, which is you're a few years younger than me. Can you please stand in for Gen Z for a moment and tell me about some things that we should be thinking about on the eve of the midterm elections?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
This is Gen
So,
Z
like,
stolen valor. I'm not actually Gen Z. I just play one on a podcast, but
oh, really?
I'm close enough. Yeah.
I still there's like definitely this trend of like younger millennials who just like so don't want to be associated with Gen Z that I don't understand because you look kind of the same to me, but I'm that by itself is amusing to me.
I mean, it's so much worse to be associated with millennials, but I'm like kind of a big believer, like the more hated generation gets, like, I mean, Gen Z, top of the mountain, best
Yeah,
generation ever, forever. People hate boomers. Boomers are taking all the money. Boomers don't pay taxes. Boomers won't let go of power. I love a boomer. Okay.
me
They're
too.
awesome.
Me too. Me too. I feel like boomers like well, look, we don't need to talk about boomers. All right, we can do that the next time you're on this show.
Okay, great. We'll
Okay,
talk about
so
boomers next time.
so as a fake member of Gen Z,
Yeah.
um, what is up? Like, should we be taking seriously the kind of like very radical face of young people, where they're like seemingly either communists or groypers, or is that like, do you think that's just internet distortion of what 22-year-old kids actually think about?
I actually don't think it's internet distortion. I think I've had a lot of conversations recently with people who are just like started using the term goy slop, for example, or I'm
Yeah,
going to goy out or all of these things. And it's like, oh, that's really interesting. And I think it's almost the new retarded, where it's
Yeah.
like, I'm mostly saying this because like someone slapped my hand and told me not to, but at the same time, it's like, well, why are you so sensitive about it? And there's like almost like a pride in it.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely a level of sloughing off, you know, speech codes or being told what to think or being told something is beyond the pale or past the Overton window. I think naturally young people reach for those things beyond it. But I think what you're seeing in survey after survey is just that affordability is really high on the list for Gen Z. I think um, international affairs and foreign policy, as much as there's so much discussion about Israel, is and the Middle East isn't actually at the top of the list of the things Gen Z and voters care about. Um, yeah, it's really interesting.
What about hopelessness? I mean, there's this perception of like, well, I'm not having children because it's bad for the planet, or I'm not gonna get a job because AI is gonna take it. Like, do you think
Yeah.
that hopelessness is as big in the youth conscious, or is that, I'll just keep asking the same question, or is that
I
exaggerated?
do. I think in terms of the like, I'm not going to have a kid because of the environment, I think that's cope or just they're
Yeah.
lying. I think people don't want to have kids because it takes away your freedom and it costs a lot of money. And I think there's also an element of pressure to give the child a certain lifestyle, education that maybe my and your parents didn't have. I think, there's a great article in The Atlantic, I forget who wrote it, that basically said it used to be that you got married, had kids, and then you built your life. And now it's the reverse, where the marriage and
Right.
kids are sort of the cherry on top of the financial stability that you built. The problem with that is that you could always get more financial stability. At a certain point, you just have to commit to the husband and the kids or the wife and the kids and kind of go from there. Um, in terms of AI, I think it's an open question which party is going to be the anti-AI party. There's like kind of a
Oh,
populist,
I don't think it's an open question at all. I think there's one party that's clearly like, fuck it, let's ride.
and it's the Republicans.
Yeah, I think. I mean, there'll be outliers, but that seems like Trump's version of the party right now.
It's Trump's version of the party, but I'm curious if it's JD Vance's version of the party. And if it's like the MAGA populist version of the party that actually
Yeah.
doesn't want a data center, that actually is really suspicious of big tech.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to see like how that breaks apart and how someone like JD Vance, if he were to be the nominee, would navigate it. But yeah, the hopelessness is a really big question. I mean, I think the thing is that no politician can alleviate that from your life. So I think
Right.
whoever can give the message that actually you have to do this for yourself and like either go to church or not, but hey, universal basic income is actually not going to give you meaning. Would be a compelling message.
I have been very surprised in this era of politics by actually how big of an effect politics can have. Like, I figured that Donald Trump would get elected president and like Disney would still say, well, we're going to be making like, the movies about the transgender kids, and like that era would be like reinforced by Trump's presidency, the way it was the first time he was up. But I have been very surprised by how much a president can sort of change a nation's social consciousness. And I mean, I guess I suppose like I do wonder, and I think the question that you teased up there about like, well, what do actual voters think about AI is maybe like the most potent one to watch for the next 5 or 10 years. So I'm not sure where I'm going with it, except that I think you're an interesting person.
Thank you.
um,
Well, I think to your point maybe is that yes, the president, it might be giving Trump a little too much credit just because
yeah,
these ideas that were ascended in 2020, defund the police, trans women are women,
right.
whatever these sort of like slogans were never
Yeah,
going to have purchase on the majority of Americans. So now I
yeah,
think the left has an opportunity to say, hey, I don't believe that. And oh, by the way, they're going to try and distract you with, trans bathroom stuff and she's for they, them, I'm for you, or whatever it is. I'm trying to talk about putting more money in your pocket.
right,
So that's, I
right.
think, where the opening would be for them.
The Abdul El Sayed pitch.
Exactly.
Okay, heard. What about building housing? Okay,
Right.
well, let me just rip through this list just for for one or two more minutes here. So, do you think that there are any like true youth candidates out there right now? Like James Tallarico and El Sayed kind of come to mind, but I'm just like wondering if these places we're going to be paying a lot of attention to before the election, if there are any that feature candidates with like really strong youth appeal.
It's so interesting. I always think like about the youth candidates. Like we're now seeing the Gen X candidate. I keep coming back to Gen X, but like I think
Yeah.
Graham Plattner was a Gen Xer. And so like with the Gen X candidates, you have like the problematic tattoos. With the Gen Z candidates, you're going to have whatever they've posted online, whether horrifying, racist, embarrassing, all the different flavors that you wouldn't want out there. I have
Yeah.
not seen like a younger candidate pop up. I don't pay attention.
I mean the other way. I mean, like, if there are any candidates, regardless of what generation they are. I mean, Bernie Sanders got young people out, but if there are like any candidates that you would like predict have a lot of traction with young people that maybe like we haven't caught on to yet.
I actually think it's going to be, I mean, maybe this is like wish casting. What's her name? Marie Glastonkamp, MGK.
Maria Glusenkamp Perez out in Washington.
I don't know any of these people's names, but like I weirdly think
That's my job.
that's your job, exactly. Like the same kind of group that coalesced around an Andrew Yang in 2020, I believe it was. I think could, and maybe this includes like some EA types and some tech people and some kind of like upwardly mobile young people who actually don't want to be in the streets protesting every weekend. They want the sort of brass tacks dining table issues things to be taken care of that we were talking about. Someone like her, I think, could maybe get traction among the youth, or someone who actually isn't trying to be young and cool. I mean, I was sort of like, is Haley Stevens gonna like whip this out just because she's kind of a
Yeah.
weirdo? And Gen Z seems to like that. I don't know. I'd be really curious to see if Kamala ran again and who she would get behind her.
Yeah, we'll see.
That makes
All right,
sense?
last question. Yeah, last question for you. So, if I recall, you kind of made your debut in the public discourse with an essay on applying to college and how frustrating that is.
Wow. Yes.
We have
Yes, I
long
did.
memories here.
Mr. Keeney
Um,
does his research, as everyone should know. On
you
the
know,
horrible cancellations that happened 15 years ago, which I stand by.
I'm gonna post that on the internet. Um, do you get the sense that there's like Trump has made a little bit of hay about why are we letting so many foreigners into colleges and taking graduate spots or whatever it may be? Do you get the sense that like people who are going into the college meat grinder right now listen to Trump say that and they're like, yeah, let's get foreigners off of campus? Like, do you think that's a motivating issue at all? Or if you don't study it, like that's fine too. But I have wondered about that lately.
I mean, I think academia in general just has not made a great case for itself over the past 10 years, and it sort of humiliated itself. And you could think of, flashpoints in this, whether it's the Weinsteins at Evergreen State, whether it's Claudine Gay saying she can't define, attacking a Jewish student as bullying, or, I'm butchering whatever happened there. But there's just been so many moments you can't have on one hand being like this institution doesn't matter really at all and they're communists and we should take away their funding, and on the other to say this is a sacred space and we need to get all the immigrants out of it. It's like it either matters or it doesn't. But remind me of the question again, sorry.
If you think that like young people who are going through the college application process are actually warm to the idea of banning foreigners, that like Trump talks about, just because there's no slots, basically.
I think a really enterprising young person right now like wants to get into Harvard so they could drop out, or wants to get into MIT so they could drop out. I really don't think they care so much about they see these things as not a place to like go and learn, but as a platform to launch themselves from. And it's really interesting the amount of startups that are coming out of like these classrooms at MIT, for example. So
Yeah.
I don't think the students care so much. When I wrote that piece, I wasn't thinking, my slot is going to, some girl whose dad like runs Saudi Arabia and it should be going to me. I was just thinking, is everyone else seeing how insane this is? And how we're all kind of lying to ourselves and others in order to like get into this like special club that it's not even clear what the club is giving us. So I think what I was trying to do with that piece was sort of be like kind of emperor has no clothes. And I think I was proven right,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, 3 cheers there. Okay, final question. We are using prediction markets to get at American culture. What are the questions, what are the answers, and what are the trends? Are there any big questions that you would like to see answered by a prediction market?
It's so interesting. I do not participate in prediction markets. It's for boys. It's sort of like it's like the sports of sports. It's like, what if sports had sports? That's how I see prediction markets. It's so like probably bad and embarrassing, and I should probably kind of like dig into it a little more. I mean, I know it's not gambling, but I'm not a gambler, so it's hard to say what I would use this for. I'd love to know like which neighborhood to move to in New York. I'd love to know where to go on vacation. You know,
All right, so it sounds like we need markets on
markets for
real
girls.
estate prices, real estate like apartment prices. I think these exist actually. I think you can look somewhere and they have like Polymarket and Kalshi lines on how expensive rents will be in various cities. So
But how would
it's
I
on a
use that? Is the idea like, sorry, I know this is off topic, but is it like, oh, I see that the prediction market signals that Bend, Oregon is the new like affordable place to live. Maybe I need to like get in early and move to Bend.
I think it's a little bit convoluted for the normal person, to be honest. But I think that the argument is that like you can lay off the risk of an expensive mortgage or an expensive rent payment or something like that by purchasing positions in these lines. Like one of the reasons why we do this podcast, like to be honest, is that like the useful properties of prediction markets aren't well understood, and we just think that there's like an opportunity to try and translate some of these questions and answers to the world. So I don't like I don't entirely know the answer. I'm not a real estate investor, but it's like it is always interesting to hear, what would people like to use one of these products for, and that can inform decision making. This feels
I
like
mean,
a
I'd
corporate
love
Q and
to.
A,
I
but
would love to. I mean, I wouldn't because I think it's probably not ethical as a reporter, but I would love to like theoretically make money if
yeah,
I like can, oh, this is probably what's going to happen in fashion. Oh, this is who might perform at the halftime show.
yeah,
But it's fascinating. I was following the cancer stuff between Kathy Hochul and the Kalshi people. Do you
yeah.
also kind of see uh Kalshi, what's the other one? What's the other one?
Polymarket,
Kendrick Lamar?
yeah, Polymarket.
Yeah, but like Polymarket's
Oh,
Ken,
yeah,
Drake.
yeah. It's Drake and Kendrick.
It's Drake and Kendrick.
Yeah,
And that's also OpenAI Anthropic.
yes, yes.
Can we monetize that insight on a prediction market?
Um, you can. You need to apply the insight to the market and then find the right entry price and the right exit price. What could be easier, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, Susie, remind people where can they find your work?
They can find my work at the Free Press, thefp.com. I have a column called Second Thought. I have a podcast called Second Thought. And if you want to follow me on Twitter or on X, you can do it at Suzy Weiss, Snoozy Weiss, Weiss. And yeah, follow the Free Press, subscribe to the Free Press. We'd love to have you. We talk about such interesting things as Oscars and prediction markets and Met Gala looks and Lauren Sanchez Bezos. So this was so fun.
Pleasure was mine. Thanks for joining, Susie.